I'm Senator David Leyonhjelm from the Liberal Democrats. I'm in Sydney at the Grasshopper Bar in Temperance Lane to introduce the Senate Select Committee on Red Tape interim report on the sale and supply of alcohol. The inquiry heard a lot of evidence about red tape, and what we discovered was red tape is basically strangling the innovation in the alcohol industry. Things are changing in the alcohol industry and yet regulations are not keeping up. We heard from representatives of the Hotels Association, small bars, distilled spirits, some of the companies and the Australian Grape and Wine Authority. What became obvious is we don't really know why the government taxes alcohol. There are two objectives really. One is to raise money, and it certainly does that. There's well over $5 billion a year raised just out of alcohol. The other one is to discourage people from drinking. We call it a sin tax, but they're mutually exclusive. If you don't want people to drink, obviously, if you don't want the adverse effects of alcohol, you've got to stop people from drinking. If you want to raise money, you want them to drink more. So it's incoherent regulation. And it's affecting that incoherence is affecting the alcohol industry in many, many ways. Now the red tape is massive. There's a huge pile of it which adversely affects all aspects of the alcohol industry. One of the things that seems to be overlooked is that consumer behaviour is changing. People are moving away from quantity towards quality, and one of the ways this is being shown is via small bars such as this one, the Grasshopper Bar in Sydney. And the proprietor here I have with me is Martin O'Sullivan. He's the president of the Small Bars Association of New South Wales and also the proprietor of this bar. Martin, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, David. Thank you very much.
Now tell us a bit about the red tape that affects your bar and your industry.
I think one of the biggest ones is you've raised on the tax issues, because in Australia we have this wonderful situation where we have some world-class distilleries, like the ones in Tasmania, some of the new ones that are popping up in Sydney. They're paying huge amounts of tax to operate in a fledgling and really uncharted business in Australia. Obviously that's been done overseas. But this is new business, it's fresh. You know, these are small business owners. They're trying to open up a new idea and a new process to Sydney and expose not just me as an operator, but also me as a consumer, and yourself as a consumer, I assume, the joys of wonderful artisan products like whiskies from Tasmania. And what's happening is they're being taxed so much and at such a rate, they're struggling to survive when really their products are very popular, but the way the taxation system has worked and the red tape's in place, they're unable to go further. And we have to, as a small business owner, I have to carry those costs as well. It's very confusing.
And tell us about the specific restrictions on your small bar.
On my small bar, one of the ones that's probably the most confusing is, you know, going back to whiskies and vodkas or any of those artisan products that are at a higher price range, a luxury. People can't drink these straight after 12 o'clock. So hypothetically, you've had a hard day at Parliament, you come in, I know Parliament closes or the Senate closes at very late at night, you think, oh, I'd like to have a drink at 12 o'clock, I'd like a beautiful whiskey from Japan, hypothetically. And that's $70, which sounds like a lot, but if you're getting something that's handmade and boutique, it's all relative. You get yourself a lovely Japanese whiskey, you have to have that with a mixer. So you have to have it with a ginger beer, you have to have it after 12 o'clock, which is, it just doesn't make sense.
No.
So what a lot of our small businesses are doing, they're changing their trading hours to close earlier because, one, they don't want to confuse the consumer, and two, there's no point because people can't experience what small bars and these cocktail and artisan venues are about, which is introducing new products and getting people to experience different aspects of alcohol rather than just a schooner of beer.
What do you think the origin of that sort of rule? So if you want to have a $70 whiskey at 12:05, you've got to contaminate it with a mixer.
Yes.
What do you think is the origin behind that sort of rule?
I'm not sure. It was a knee-jerk reaction from state government in Sydney. And it's a shame because there wasn't much consultation. And I do think I'm hoping these things will turn around, and I think it's great that we've got a federal minister who's interested in this, and a federal government who's interested in trying to make changes within a state system that's a little bit, I wouldn't say lost, but just needs a little bit of tweaking, because this is such a beautiful city, and at the moment we're just not getting it.
What we heard on the in the inquiry was examples like that. A lot of red tape, regulation, strangling the industry, causing an awful lot of grief to the alcohol industry. And the suppliers of spirits to bars like Martin's are also affected. Micro distilleries, for example, which is an emerging industry, are taxed like crazy, pay huge amounts of tax. And not only that, they have to pay the tax to the tax office within 30 days, and yet they don't even get paid for the products that they sell for maybe 60 days or even longer, depending on who they're selling them to and their trading terms. So they've got a massive cash flow problem. Now that's good, fine if you're a big industry, you can handle the cash flow, although you might not like it. But for a little company, a little distillery, you know, some of the ones setting up in Tasmania and those sorts of places, it's a major burden. And it's totally unnecessary. It's a complete impost on business that achieves no social purpose whatsoever. Craft breweries are also facing similar sorts of tax imposts. You can get drunk on a cask wine and pay not that much tax, but you can stay sober on a craft beer and you pay an awful lot of tax. It makes no sense whatsoever. In fact, the whole taxation of alcohol is you know, incomprehensible almost. We've got two systems so silly that you can have a case of ginger beer, for example. If it's low alcohol, the tax on it can be $27. If it's high alcohol, the tax on it is just $8.50 for the same size case of ginger beer. It's beyond stupid, and it's time it was fixed.